Is San Francisco 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy being underrated and just downright disrespected? We're going to talk about that and Kyle Shanahan. Comments on this current 49ers team kind of compares a little bit to 2017. Obviously, his first year coaching the San Francisco 49ers. We're going to talk about all that and more right here on Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of Locked On 49ers. I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, Eric Crocker. And I want to welcome you guys, man. Welcome you guys to this show. This is my show now. Peacock still ain't back yet. I think he comes back tonight. But in the moment, this is my show. And I have really good news. I don't have to read the Yahoo ad. So I'm excited about that. It's been kicking my butt. All right, we want to thank you for making us, or me, your first listen of the day. And really just excited to get into some San Francisco 49ers talk on your morning commute. And as you guys get ready for work. So let's do this. Yes, I kind of touched on it a little bit. And I said, we'll maybe talk about this later in the week. But quarterback rankings, especially as it pertains to Brock Purdy. And I do think that a lot of these lists that float out there it's really just opinions. And the only opinion that matters is that of the people in the building with the 49ers. And that's Kyle Shanahan. That's John Lynch, right? When it comes to any of their players. And I kind of talked about it because we were talking about Diamador Lenore. And, he was talking about how he wanted to be considered one of the best corners in the NFL. And I like that mindset because that lets you know right there, man, his goals, his aspirations are really high. And he's going to probably do everything possible to attain whatever notoriety that he's looking for from the NFL. Cool. And if that makes him the best corner in the league, great. But if it doesn't, dude, you can't let that get you down. Or if they're not considering you the best, you can't let that get you down. And I think a lot of that conversation clearly about quarterbacks, it's happening daily. And I saw it on my timeline and guys were like, oh, and it's just clickbait or it's content creators. They don't have anything to talk about. It is preseason, so there's not a ton to talk about. But where a quarterback is ranked to me is it's irrelevant, but it is just a talking point. So if maybe I can help the 49er faithful, I can help the faithful just wrap their brains around maybe why Brock is listed where people have him. And again, why it just really doesn't matter. There's a lot of different things we can get to as it pertains to Brock Purdy and why maybe they had him listed. And I'll add it to the screen here. You guys can see it. This is the 2025 QB tiers. And this is from the GMs, assistant GMs, and 5 other execs. All right. And if you're watching on YouTube right now, you'll see a list of 34 different quarterbacks. They have a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, and Kenny Pickett by himself in tier 5. So you look at this board, and obviously you have the Mahomes, Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and maybe surprisingly Matthew Stafford there in the top 5 group. The next 5 are you have Jaden Daniels, Justin Herbert, Jared Goff, C.J. Stroud, Jalen Hurts at 9, just off of winning a Super Bowl. Baker Mayfield. Oh, so they have 2 at 9. C.J. Stroud and Jalen Hurts. You have Baker Mayfield at 11, Dak Prescott at 12, Jordan Love at 13, and Brock Purdy at 14. I think I said 15, but Brock Purdy at 14. And a lot of people wonder, like, how could that be? How could anyone have Brock Purdy that low? And I'll keep it very, very simple for you guys before we get a little bit more intricate and add any context to it. But it's 2 words, 1 name, Jimmy Garoppolo. This is Jimmy Garoppolo's fault that Brock Purdy is viewed not in a negative light, but maybe he doesn't quite get the respect. Maybe he's a little underrated. Brock Purdy does a lot of great things for the 49ers. Brock Purdy is at the top of the NFL in a lot of passing categories, a lot of different statistics, a lot of QB measurements, a lot of the ones that matter. Um, when it comes to yards per attempt, deep ball completion percentage, his QBR is extremely high. There are a lot of things that he's doing at a high level. He's winning playoff games, right? And I think that's a big argument I see on social media amongst 49er fans. They're like, well, Brock has more playoff wins than these guys combined, right? Like we see a lot of that. And if you're just an outsider, if you're just an outsider, the simple response is, well, so does Jimmy Garoppolo during his time with the 49ers. Hell, I just saw a little graphic or a little tweet that said Colin Kaepernick, who has not played football since 2016, Colin Kaepernick currently still has more playoff wins than Dak Prescott. Cap has 4, Prescott has 2. And Dak has been in the league for like a decade. All right. So I think sometimes as it pertains to playoff and postseason success, I think when you are comparing like the greatest guys, you definitely use that as a measuring stick. When you think of a guy like Dan Marino, I think Dan Marino is not viewed as like the greatest or one of the greatest because, well, he doesn't have the postseason success. Went to the Super Bowl year 2 into the NFL and just never went back. Like there's just no postseason success for Dan Marino. But everyone would tell you he was one of the best throwers of the football. He was this great quarterback. He did all these things, super awesome. I think it was last week. It came up in the chat where someone compared Joe Burrow to him. Like, man, will Joe Burrow he beat Dan Marino? And it's like, man, I can see that because Joe Burrow has 2 awesome receivers with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, and they're amazing. And if my memory serves me correct, and you guys know I'm bad with names at times, but if my memory serves me correct, Irvin Fryer and OJ McDuffie. Now that's as far back as my memory bank goes with Miami Dolphins and kind of Dan Marino type years. I'm 38 years old, so I was in what elementary, going into middle school, when Dan Marino's playing. But I watch a lot of football. I've always loved football, so I'm kind of pulling those names out of nowhere. But I'm assuming Irvin Fryer, OJ McDuffie, I believe they were on some Dolphin team. So either way, he has some good receivers. Some cornerbacks too. Patrick Surtain, I believe. Troy Vincent, if I'm not mistaken. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Fact check that. Either way, he didn't have the postseason success. And he's viewed a certain way. All right. And as it pertains to the greatest, who do people say is the greatest quarterback of all time? They say Tom Brady. And Tom Brady's not the most physically gifted. But mentally and just being able to execute at an extremely high level, he's done it better and more than anyone else, even more than a guy who I think is really up there, at least in my era of quarterbacks that I've watched, and that's Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning obviously won the Super Bowl in his last year. Arm was definitely a shell of itself, but a lot of people look at Peyton Manning, and if he would have had 5 or 6 Super Bowls, they would view him probably better than Tom Brady because regular season, I don't think there's any comparison who the greater quarterback was in that type of situation. Aaron Rodgers, he's another guy I think people talk about postseason success. Was 4-time Super Bowl, 4th-time MVP of the NFL, but he does not have the Super Bowl, so he'll never be viewed in the same light as some of the other guys. So, as it pertains to Brock Purdy, a lot of people will go to playoff wins, postseason success to put him over some of the other guys. I think an exercise I like to use is, which is a hypothetical and really just, I guess, ridiculous because this stuff really doesn't even matter. But if there was a draft, right, and again, stupid hypothetical, but if there's a draft, where would certain quarterbacks go? Who would go first, and in what order? So would Patrick Mahomes go first? Maybe, probably, yeah, right. But maybe Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. I think we're all pretty much on the same page with those first 4 coming off the board first. After that, what would it look like? After that, if we got one season, and you want to make a playoff push, or you want to go to the Super Bowl, who would you be drafting next? Would it be Matthew Stafford for one season? With the way his back is going on, I'm out on Matthew Stafford. Would it be Jaden Daniels? I think we've seen this a lot of times. Guys start off really hot. Man, he had a great rookie season. Can he continue? Can he do it again? We don't know. So I think 6 is a little high for me, but obviously we like the potential there. A little bit more rolling the dice. Justin Herbert, you know, he's at 7 for them. He is a guy who doesn't have the playoff success. Matter of fact, one of his playoff most memorable moments for me is him giving up like a 24-0 lead or whatever the hell it was playing against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That was ridiculous. Jared Goff. Now, I would probably have Jared Goff damn near at 5 or 6. And I know he's the consistency. I've seen him. I've seen the ups. I've seen the downs. I've seen the adversity he's had to fight through. And he continues to fight his way. And he pulled the Detroit Lions out of the dumps. And then there's a plethora of other quarterbacks that, you know, you can go with. But just what does it look like from that standpoint? Like, you take away whatever they've done with their current team in the sense of postseason success, and just what that quarterback is, and what do you think he'll be for your team? And then where does Brock Purdy fall in that? I think he probably falls ahead of Jordan Love. I think he falls ahead of Dak Prescott. But after that, it gets a little sticky. And even with putting him ahead of 11 Prescott, he'd still be at 12. And I think that's a little bit more correct. I think we know what we're getting with Brock. I think Brock, here's the thing with Brock. Tough situation last year. Very tough. Very tough. I think a lot of people would have liked to see him do just a little bit better. Just a little better. And with opportunities to lead the 49ers to certain victories that maybe they had no business being in, and maybe they were in because of him. Are you able to pull that game out and win? And I think if he did, he would be viewed a little different. But all he did was do the whole confirmation bias thing, where it's like, well, this is what we said. Well, we told you. And people are using that now to kind of downplay maybe how important he is to the 49ers. Now, he's very important to the Niners. How important is he to the rest of the league? And there were some execs that Adam Schefter had spoke to that said, oh, yeah, we didn't really look into Brock Purdy, even though we need a quarterback. We're not really keeping an eye on his situation in his new contract, because I think he's good for them. He may not be good for us. And there may be a lot of teams that feel that same way. We're going to continue this conversation about Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, and much more right after this break. It's time to fuel up, all right, and turn up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion, all right? It brings that bold grape ginger flavor in your favorite golf drink, all right, minus the alcohol. And I'm not one to drink on the course. I've seen a lot of people do it. Not me, but I will take a 5-Hour Energy shot and get that quick little boost of energy that I definitely need. All right, let's be honest. Some days on the course or off of it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. What's the wildest shot that you've ever made? Mine, talked about it the other day. It was a birdie on a par 3 course. All right, it's a par 3 course. I got a birdie. I was super excited about that. I'm a newbie to golf. All right, but it still matters. And I think 5-Hour Energy drink probably helped me a lot with that. All right, what's the weirdest course you've ever played at? Have you guys had any odd challenges on the golf course? All right, golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors. Of course, the grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of the clubhouse to go without chasing down that beverage cart. You don't need to go chase after the ladies on the golf cart for alcohol. The 5-Hour Energy shot is going to get you right. So you guys need to go to 5hourenergy.com today. That is the number 5hourenergy.com, and you can use the promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. The offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with any other promotions. This code is not good on subscription orders. All right, guys, we've been talking 49ers, Brock Purdy, is he being underrated? Who cares where he's ranked? All right, and I keep talking to 49er fans about that. Like, none of that matters. I do think it's Brock Purdy, like the ghost of Jimmy Garoppolo that's holding Brock Purdy back. It's the ghost of Jimmy G. I don't think anyone in this comment section right now, I don't think any 49er fans will be naive enough to think that Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo are in the same tier. I personally think Brock Purdy's better. Um, I like a lot of what he does better. I think he moves around better. But when you think about the outside people, they see similar success. They see guys who have went to multiple conference championship games and both went to a Super Bowl. They see guys who, are super efficient between the 10 and 20-yard throws, top of the league. They see guys who led the league in yards per attempt. They see guys who won a lot of games with kind of a similar cast. And maybe at times Jimmy Garoppolo not as good of a cast. And then other times a better cast, right? They seen that. And they seen both of these guys have a very consistent situation with the play caller and some of the coaches that are surrounding them and teaching them. So when you kind of look at that from an outsider's perspective, I think that's why there's a lot of, I don't even want to say shade, but maybe a lot of Brock Purdy underrating. It's the ghost of Jimmy G. I'm looking in the chat right now. Shout out to my guy Johnny Dale, Football Academy. Make sure you guys check out his YouTube channel. He says Mayfield and Prescott being higher than Purdy, I just can't. Dak Prescott, definitely not. Baker Mayfield, there's more of a conversation. And I ain't saying that he's over him, but I do believe there is more of a conversation for Baker. I am very impressed with what Baker Mayfield did last year. Did he have a better supporting cast than Brock Purdy? Yeah. Did he have a better supporting cast to the extent of throwing 42 touchdowns and like 4,500 yards or whatever it was and leading that Tampa Bay Buccaneers team to the postseason? I don't know if his supporting cast was better to get that much better results. Now, you guys can correct me. I could be wrong, but I am all about seeing a guy rise above whatever their circumstances are. I think losing Chris Godwin was troublesome for him. I think losing Evans for a game or so or however long, like troublesome for him. I really like Bucky Irving. I think he's a good young running back. I think for the 49ers, he'd be solid, but I don't know if I would I'm just taking Bucky Irving over some of these running backs that filled in for the 49ers. Kate Otten is their tight end. He ain't no George Kittle. So maybe their defense was better. And that definitely can help. But overall, I don't think that the situation that Baker was in was like this drastically better situation for him to do as much better with that team than what the 49ers got. And I could be wrong. Y'all can tell me, Croc, you are tripping. You guys can tell me that. But I think Baker Mayfield is, if you're ranking them right now heading into the season, I think they're right to have Baker over Brock. But Prescott, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And Prescott's a guy who was up for MVP a couple years ago. Absolutely not. I would not have him ahead of Brock Purdy. No. All right, we got Vita in the chat. He says, my comment about first stronger sounds disrespectful. Maybe first stringer. You've always been a starter. You are just now CMC playing QB when Brock Purdy got knocked out of the game. Not quite sure what you're trying to say there. All right, here we go. Mike, give Croc the like. Yeah, man. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I forget to say those things on the show. We got Rico Gonzalez in the chat. He says Brock is listed where he is because his play is limited ability. I don't think it has to do with limited ability. I don't think it has to do with, as you went on to say, his arm strength. I don't think it's that. I truly think that it's because a lot of the outsiders just saw Jimmy Garoppolo do things in a similar fashion. When I say similar, not exact, right? Because you can say, oh, Well, pull up. I'm just going off of what I see on social media. Pull up Jimmy Garoppolo in the postseason, right, where it wasn't as good, but we saw a lot of really good in the regular season. So I think people just see that stuff. And their 49ers quarterback, Jimmy was good, Brock was good. Jimmy has gone on to other teams, and it has not been good. And I think that weighs down Brock a little bit. Papa Jane in the chat says Brock Purdy has better passer rating, quarterback rating overall than Baker Mayfield throughout their career. Brock Purdy is better in my opinion. I think that Brock Purdy, now again, see, I don't want to move the goalpost. Brock Purdy came into a drastically better situation than Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield went to a Cleveland Browns team and actually led them to the postseason. A team that hadn't won a playoff game in 30 years? 30? It's been a long time. I think that you got to put some stock into being able to. I mean, look at the dysfunction with the Cleveland Browns. Like dysfunction. And then you trade him. He goes to the Rams for a few games, and then he goes to the Carolina Panthers, and then he goes to a situation that's better for him, right? Like Tom Brady's coming off of a Super Bowl victory, and you go over there, and this is better, and then he does well, and he's going to the playoffs, and he's doing those things, and throwing 42 touchdowns, whatever. Like he's done well. It's hard to. It is very difficult to compare careers when guys aren't starting at the same point. You know what I'm saying? Like if he got drafted to, even if he got drafted, let's say Green Bay, I think Jordan Love would be more comparable in the sense of where he was drafted, the success he's had. Look, okay, you want to compare careers and where they were and add all the context. Compare Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, and I got Brock Purdy up here. Jordan Love even got to sit for 3 years and learn behind Aaron Rodgers, and for a greatly ran organization. But yeah, we didn't get that with Baker Mayfield. Mayfield went to an atrocious situation with the Cleveland Browns. They just been bad, and they drafted him number 1 overall, and he led that team to the postseason and won a playoff game. I think even beat a division rival, Pittsburgh Steelers, if I'm not mistaken. That was pretty damn good. Vita in the chat, I think Purdy has underrated running potential. I think so too. I think his ability to create outside the structure is probably a little underrated. Joseph in the chat says Baker is literally a better version of Brock, in my opinion. I'd say that's tough. I don't want to call Baker Mayfield better, but if I had to rank them, I would have Baker slightly above him. But I feel like on any given day, Brock can be better, Baker can be better. But I do weigh what Baker did last season a little higher because of just degree of difficulty. I think they're going to be damn good. Well, I don't want to say damn good. I am interested. I'm going to go to that game, the game in Tampa Bay this upcoming season. They got that rookie out of Ohio State, who I know Peacock wasn't super high on, but it sounds like right now he's got killing it in camp. Joseph says Baker has better throwing potential, better running potential, better energy. Well, I don't think we have to use the potential with Baker because we know what he is in the NFL. So does he have a better arm? All right, but that doesn't mean anything if you make poor decisions. I think what evens the playing field is last season when Brock Purdy was kind of tasked with taking on putting a lot on his shoulders. I think his decision making kind of went down a little bit. But Brock was a pretty good decision maker, when he had everybody. And once he started losing some guys, you still had George Kittle out there, Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall came back. But his decision making, I felt like, especially down the stretch, I think he kind of felt the pressure of having to truly lead the 49ers. And that was tough. And and that's not to say that there weren't some moments where he had to kind of lead, but to have to lead for entire games, that's a totally different type of pressure. Knowing my defense isn't that good, special teams isn't that great, we got injuries, I got key guys out, like I have to lead the entire time. The decision making started to kind of go down a little bit, and that's other people's reality. That was Justin Herbert, right? For everybody who kind of they give him a tough time. A lot of everything is kind of on his shoulders. Quick, name a Justin Herbert weapon on offense. Quick, quick, quick. We probably can't. The rookie out of Georgia last year. That's it. The rookie receiver out of Georgia. Well, now he got Keenan Allen back. We'll see what it looks like. But not all situations are created equal. And I think sometimes when you get to see guys in a kind of uncomfortable situation, how do they react? I think Brock Purdy reacted in a way where some people expected that, and others are giving him a pass because of it. And I'm just truly excited to see what he looks like this season. All right, enough of Brock Purdy, enough of quarterback rankings. Let's get to Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers rebuild. Let's talk about it next. Ever wish managing money felt easier? All right. And with Monarch Money, it can be. Whether you are growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. All right. It's like having your own personal CFO giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. All right. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So, in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth, which we all want to do. All right. What's one of the things that's surprising that you noticed when you started tracking your spending with Monarch? I know for me, it was all the Netflix and the Hulu and all those things, right? It really helped me understand those things. We got to get that under control. But to take control of your finances with Monarch Money, use code Locked On NFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off of your first year. That's your entire first year, 50% off. That's monarchmoney.com, code Locked On NFL for half off your first year. All right. Terry Dome is in the chat. Shout out to my guy, Terry Dome. He says, we do remember Brock was the last pick overall, and he had to battle from day one to get everything, right? We do remember. And I wonder if some people hold where he was drafted against him a little bit. But one thing, Terry Dome, that I've noticed, once you're in the NFL, you're in the NFL. So maybe from the outside, they may, last pick and all this, and then it's a great story. But like once you're in the building, like they don't care where you're drafted. Well, that will give you a little bit more. Like if you're a first round, you may get more opportunities. Didn't help Trey Lance. But typically, once you're in the building, bro, it's a wrap. Like you are an NFL player. So who cares if he was the last pick in the draft? Who cares? They don't care in the building. Do you get the job done? And that's going to outweigh anything else. Kyle Shanahan can give two damns that Brock was pick 262. Can he get the job done? And for Kyle, he does. Like that's all he cares about. So yeah, we remember, but they don't care. They don't care. Brock didn't inherit anything. That's a self-made million. He did not inherit Brock, and that's Terry Dome in the chat. Brock did not inherit an opportunity. Well, he kind of did. A couple guys went down. It presented an opportunity for him. But the situation that he got the opportunity in was essentially inherited. Now, what you do with it, that's what makes you an NFL player. But I think we can all admit when you play your first game, right? And you have George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Debo Samuel, Jawan Jennings, all the Trent Wayne, like a good defense at that time. Like that is a good situation that I was kind of born into, right? Like he was born into a good situation. And kudos to him for taking full advantage of it. Like that's the big part. Because other people can, I mean, shoot, we just watch, well, they didn't play with the studs, but other people can be in that same situation and not do as well. Trey Lance in the 4 games that he started for the 49ers, up and down. It wasn't great. Brock Purdy coming in, it was great. Who knows what other people would have done in that same situation, but it it does like you have to take that into account a little bit if you are going to compare him to other people. If you're not going to compare him to other people, then it is completely fine to leave all that out. And all that matters, which I said before, what Kyle Shanahan thinks of Brock Purdy. Like that is all that matters. That's all that matters. What does he think about him? Anything else is really irrelevant. And the NFL does not care. And Kyle Shanahan kind of alluded to that with comparing the 2025 49ers to kind of 2017 and the situation it is. And he was like, man, we got studs. We do have studs. We have guys that are capable of carrying the 49ers. CMC, right? I mean, terrific. Brock Purdy, terrific. Right? Like there's some good players. Fred Warner, Nick Bosa. But they aren't good enough to carry you alone in the NFL. You need more. The NFL is just too good. You need more. So when he compared 2025 to 2017, not entirely. 2017 was a complete rebuild, a complete tear down and build it back up. 2025, you have studs. You got some guys from that draft, right? You got George Kittle from that draft. But now it's the younger guys that he alluded to that they have to figure out a way to build up. He even used the word hopefully as it pertains to making the postseason. And maybe that's just him being respectful of the NFL. But I wish he could have said something like, okay, make a playoff push, as opposed to hopefully when that didn't sit well with me. And I could be nitpicking his words. And as someone who sits up here and talks on a mic and you have an idea of topics that you want to touch on, but you may say the wrong thing sometimes. Or you may say something in a way that you don't mean it that way. So maybe he didn't mean hopefully. He just used that word and I'm nitpicking at that word. But maybe he just meant, Croc, I mean the same thing you mean, which is, yeah, we want to make a playoff push and we're going to get these guys ready, rolling. And we have some guys that should be able to help us through that situation. But it does feel a little bit more like a rebuild or reload, whatever you guys want to call it, when you are going to have to potentially count on so many young players. Now, I have seen this question or comment in the chat, in the YouTube channel. People talking about like, oh, well, you guys love the Rams young guys. And I don't know who you guys are. I don't give a damn about the Rams or anything they have going on. But you look at the Rams and it's like, yeah, with Jared Verse, that was not, being optimistic about the Rams and their young situation there was not something that people were saying prior. At least I wasn't saying prior to last season and how it played out. So I think the vibes around a lot of the young players for the 49ers, how we're viewing it right now and how it potentially turns out, like it can be flipped upside down. And by week 18, we're talking about how great this defense is because of all these young players. But it is never ideal in the NFL to have to depend on that many young players to bring you guys the defense that you want to see on the 49ers field. Y'all want to see a great product. Oh, Robert Saleh's back. All is good. I don't know. I hope so. I hope so for sure. But when you think about the amount of young guys are going to have to depend on, and I talked about this yesterday on yesterday's episode, just rattle off the names on the 2019 defense. That's the best defense he had. And rattle off those names. And then tell me how heading into the season, that defense compares to this defense. Now, maybe heading into that season, we didn't view it that way, which I don't know. I think we all thought Fred Warner was pretty damn good. I think we all thought Nick Bosa, who was number 2 overall pick, was going to be good. And when they traded for D Ford, I think we even thought we were going to get more production out of them than they did. And even then, they were still really good because DeForest Buckner and Eric Armstead and those guys were studs. it was just a different Jimmy Ward, Jacoby Tartt. Like, we knew they were good. Right now, we are hoping a lot of these players are good. And I'm not even so much hoping that, let's just hope they're good. I'm hoping they're trending in the direction of being good. I'm hoping guys like Siegel's trending in the direction of being good. Upton Stout, direction of being good. Michael Williams, Alfred Collins, CJ West, Malik Mustafa coming back from an injury. What does that look like? Like, there's so many question marks surrounding this defense where I could see how Kyle's like, yeah, you gotta, it's a little bit of a rebuild. With the Rams, which was referenced in the YouTube chat comment, with the Rams, we just know what they are now, or at least what they were last season. And they were a defense that sacked Sam Darnold like 9 times, and a defense that kept the Rams in the game against the Philadelphia Eagles, Super Bowl champions. Those young dudes were getting after it. And they had to do some heavy lifting because that offense missing a lot of guys at different times. It wasn't a great offense all year. Yeah, Matthew Stafford, great. But, man, playing without Puka Nacua, playing without Cooper Kupp, I think they were heavily dependent on Puka and Kupp. But I ain't worried about the Rams from that standpoint. I do see a lot of people kind of picking them over the 49ers. I don't know how you can pick the Rams over the 49ers with confidence with whatever Matthew Stafford's going through with his back. Or maybe you just assume, well, until we see him look bad, we're just going to assume he's going to be good. I like what they did in the offseason, though. Getting Devontae Adams, and you got Puka Nacua. You're hoping he's healthy for an entire season. They just paid Kyron Williams. They got Blake Corum. I'm excited to see what they look like. I just like watching good football, so we'll see. Rico in the chat says, I will on my judgment of this year's class. Preseason can get the hype out of proportion. These young guys are playing a lot, but there's a lot of talent that they are consistently facing. Joe in the chat says, they are going to be a damn sight better than trending to be good. Joe also says, I'm not sure what's going on with the Niners. Pearsall is going over 1,200 yards. The defense is going to be a force. So happy to have Coach Saleh back. Bradley, and Coach Boyer with the team. Brock, George, CMC here. And the 49ers are going to depend on those guys big time. And lastly, here we go. We got Papa J. He says, one thing that Saleh and our defense have an upper hand on is that he can mold the younger players to become what they need to become according to his scheme instead of older players. I like the thoughts on that. Absolutely, Croc. I don't see that about the Rams also. And I think the Rams, here's one thing about the Rams. Okay, we'll really end on this. We know with the Rams that they are typically a very well-coached team. And we know with the Rams that McVay, he just does a good job getting the most out of whatever his team is. Typically, they had one bad year a couple years ago. But for the most part, kind of know what they're getting with that squad. And more times than not, it's a very competitive, scrappy team. And can the 49ers match that competitiveness and scrappiness this year in what is essentially a reload season? We're going to talk about all that and more. You got the 49ers preseason game against the Las Vegas Raiders coming up. I'm excited to get my guy Peacock back. We'll discuss that and more right here. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. Make sure you guys subscribe, like, and do all that good stuff. Until then, we'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.